Welcome to yet another episode of Earthians Unscripted, where I, Dmitry Sarlea, explore what it's like to be human and why do people do what they do. To do that, I am inviting interesting people to be live with me, and we have deep philosophical and sometimes not philosophical discussions. It is not an interview, we discuss things together, and it's really you watching two real people having a real conversation with no script, just really having fun and trying to understand each other and the universe around us. Today, on this episode, I invited my good friend Jean Mauris, who I've known for many years, and I find him fascinating because he has this desire to do absolutely everything, and he does so with special attention to quality. And that's perhaps something I wanted to talk to him about. So with that, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jean on the live stream. Jean, welcome.
Hi, Dmitry. Hi, everyone. Great to be here on this amazing sunny day. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm very happy to be talking to you. I guess one thing I'd like to start with is to actually ask you a very interesting question, but a very simple one.
Go
Why
ahead.
did you say yes to this? I mean, here I am out of nowhere, going like, "Hey man, come on a live stream. We'll talk about literally nothing. There is no script. We're not gonna mention anything. It's not promotional. Let's just talk." Right? Like, what made you say yes, and like, how did you view it? Because I'm also curious to always see, how do other people see me from the external view? Because you don't
Okay.
get that yourself, and you actually have to like go out and ask.
Yeah, great question. Actually, I say yes, not because of you, because I know you pretty much also many years, and I know that you're professional on the field of public events, etc., and not only. But I say yes because of just one reason, because it's an opportunity to see different types of again opportunities. So seeding opportunities. You never know what will come out of our discussion. That's a good thing because when you are getting invited into an interview, you'll have like some kind of script because you are getting interviewed because they want to learn something particular. And then you're kind of it's a one-way street. Interview is always one-way street because you do not learn from the other side. And this unscripted thing actually thrilled me because it's not like you asking questions to me and I'm answering, oh, okay, I'm doing this or that or this or that. But that's just two folks talking, and I have an opportunity to ask you questions as well. So this is why I said yes.
And I mean, I hope you do because I like questions and so especially hard ones, difficult ones that it's hard to answer. But one thing you said it was interesting. I was just thinking about that yesterday while playing Witcher 3, a computer game. I think I might actually be streaming some of my gameplay of games as well, not just talking. But I was playing, and then there was a quote that said, "A man. There are two types of men. One type of man sees the opportunities and takes them, and the other type of man creates his own opportunities." And I think, like, I'm curious, like, what's your take on it? What type of man are you?
I'm definitely the second type of man, the latter. Basically, I see them around, so I create them. But in majority of cases, and that's the most interesting part of the story, this opportunity creation isn't intentional. So basically, we're talking about that. Okay, I'll go there and meet the guy, have a coffee, or I'll take a trip to the conference, or I'll do that or this, whatever it is. You have no idea what kind of uh, things you'll get out of it. Of course, you are doing this to get maybe something, but there are collateral damage. Let's call it that way to any action you take, and collateral damage in a good form. I mean that even meeting, for example, you. And you meeting me, it's not just like two folks talking. At some point of time, we'll understand why we met each other and why. What was the like big reason. It's how the Steve Jobs said on his famous speech at Stanford University. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can connect the dots only looking backwards. And that's exactly what type of man I am. So I'm trying to create as many opportunities around myself as I can, but as I mentioned, not intentionally. Some of them are definitely intentionally, but majority of them are unintentionally created. And then looking back like a year ago, I see, oh, that's what this particular action led me to. Not intentionally, but unintentionally. And this is, I think, the beauty of entrepreneurship, of being like the guy who trying to always do something different or do something new or met new people, etc.
Do you think within these opportunities when you create them, is there a point when you're creating too many and you're becoming like defocused and you're just like
Yeah.
doing way too much stuff? I mean, at least in my life, I think I've definitely run into that situation where I'm literally doing way too many things.
Definitely. And my counter question was, are you the second type of man or the first type of man yourself? You are like...
Definitely the second type, right? But
Okay.
the thing that I sometimes have is that, okay, am I creating too many opportunities? Because I think what can happen in that situation is when, and that's what I'm learning to manage now as well, is that I feel that if you're creating too many opportunities, then you're not chasing any of them deeply enough, right? So you're kind of, okay, I'm going to go to this conference, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try to make this project come to life and that project come to life. And in the end, you have 100 projects and you're not dedicating enough love and quality to each one of them. And I think that is one interesting side of picking opportunities and being like, okay, what does opportunity mean? Because it does. I mean, there are different kind of ways to think about it.
Yeah, I think if we add to this equation one more variable, and let's call it scale, because each opportunity that you're taking has some kind of scale. Because one opportunity is basically, okay, lifetime opportunity, I don't know, to reach whatever it is. And then you're focused on this big scale opportunity. But basically, I think majority of us are taking small opportunities. And like me and you, but many people do not take those small opportunities, and that's why they are kind of stuck in their bubble, let's call it that way, and that's why they do not grow, because they're kind of, okay, I'm focused somewhere else, I'm going there, or I'm building my career, etc. But for me, the opportunity and being defocused or unfocused is a good thing on a particular scale. If you're not focused in your life, if you have no idea where you're going with your life, that's a bad thing. If you have idea where you're going with your life, but you do not have like one way of getting there, then it's all about the opportunities. It's all about how many ways you have to get there actually at the end of the road. So the scale, I think, is super crucial when we talk about opportunities, and when we talk about like multitasking, focusing, unfocusing on what's good and what's bad. This is the key for me, at least.
Yeah, I like that, and I think that's a good distinction, right? So you have these kind of big opportunities that you clearly are aware of. You know them, right? I can go and work with these people, or I can go and do this big project. But I like your idea of the small opportunities that you don't know what they're going to lead to. And they don't have to be big at all, right? It can be as much as I'm going to go for a coffee, right? And you don't know who you're going to meet at the coffee place. I don't know. I don't remember the story extremely well, so please double check for me. But it was either Sergey Brin, or I think it was Sergey Brin when he met his co-founder at Google, right? So I can't remember which way around was it, but one of them came to the university where the other was studying, and basically he needed to be shown around the campus. And I think it was Sergey, or maybe the other way around, who volunteered to show him around, right? Like to volunteer the person who just came to university to show him around the campus. Now, if he had not done that, a very small little thing, right, to literally just show someone around the house, we would not have Google today, probably, right? And you don't know that this really small thing that you're gonna do instead of staying at home will get you somewhere. Like you said, you can't connect the dots in the beginning. But if you that day decided to, stay at home and do nothing, then maybe you wouldn't have done that. At the same time, I think sometimes staying at home and doing nothing is also good, because some opportunities that you take can also steer you in a completely wrong direction and cost you 5-10 years of your life.
Sure. I think that the story behind like Google and Breen meeting Larry, whatever. I think it's always, and you probably know the statistics about startups because we are probably both in the same world of startups, at least with one lag. Uh, and there is a particular variable that basically says if the startup will be successful, and this variable is unknown, and it's called luck. So basically, there is always some kind of luck in each particular startup. The thing that no one actually thought of or planned for, or I don't know, whatever it's there. But there is always a luck, and I think the luck, if you just like mathematically calculate the luck is the more opportunities you take, the higher your basically chance of getting lucky. How now? Okay, you get it. Not getting lucky in this term, but getting luck on board, and basically continuing this journey with luck in your pockets. And I think that's why these small opportunities are super crucial. And this is exactly why I said yes. So the opportunity, because it's cool conversation. We'll talk about many things probably, but you never know where it will lead us at the end of the day.
Yeah.
At least I now install Discord, and I know Discord, so
Yeah.
I learned how this
New
thing
tool.
works.
Yes.
Yeah. At least this is already a bonus in basically my piggy bank of knowledge. That's kind of I know Discord now.
Yeah, and I think what I also liked about what you said is that when we think about mathematics of opportunity, I think there's two things, right? There's one thing that you said, which is about, if you take more opportunities, then mathematically, there's a higher chance one of them will kind of open up, right, and open a whole new world for you, right? And I think that's definitely true. But I think another element, and that I know very well because I spent a lot of time analyzing this, is actually the numerical chance is that I believe that hopefully with the data given to me, I tend to make okay decisions. Hopefully better than 50. I would say that the way I make decisions, I do hope that when I make them, I'm making them in a way where I repeat the same thing. At least 51% of the time I'll be right? But the thing is, the 49%, it's still a matter of luck, right? I can make the best decision in the world, but then coronavirus hits, and then my whole plan of making events might not be going so well, right? At the same time, if I make the same decision many, many times, luck will also even out, right? Sometimes I'll be lucky, sometimes I'll be unlucky, right? So the more shots you take, the more you actually also remove luck, right? So you kind of still have the upside of a big event happening, something really great in your life, but because you're statistically doing so many different attempts, then you will even out luck as well, which is why professional poker players actually win at the game, because it's not because they don't lose, right? They, like anyone, they can have pocket aces in front of them, but then by the time they hit the last card, somebody who had the worst card in the game, 7-2 offsuit, might have a quads of sevens, right? So the chances of that are very low, but it can happen. But because these guys play 50 to 100,000 hands every single month, that this luck gets evened out by luck, and therefore the only thing that's left is your skill, right? So luck is gotten even out with the absence of luck, or whatever you call it, misfortune, I would say. And what you have left then is purely your skill. And that's why I also think that the more things you do, the more activities you try to do, small ones, the more your skill will become dominant, even if you will be unlucky sometimes.
Exactly. This is a great point, and I also was. I'm still in the middle of the last game. Have you heard about this TV series about Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan?
Yeah. Yes. I haven't seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, I definitely recommend. This is an interesting story. It's less about basketball. It's more about like people and their character. This is what like fascinates me, and that's exactly the point. And I don't remember an exact quote by Michael Jordan, but the idea was that I missed more shots than many of NBA players took in their life. So just like imagine he missed more shots that some people took than they're still playing in NBA. And that's why he's so successful. And that's exactly also applicable to what we do in life. I mean, taking opportunities like these small steps. With each step, you take better opportunity, you learn something new, you become like more skilled. And at the end of the day, like being like 40 or 45 or 50, your decisions are super basically based on your skill. So you understand what's the next move, what kind of opportunity. It's gut feeling, and you're starting to trust it. So, okay, I trust my gut. If I kind of have a bad gut feeling, I won't go for this project, because I know unconsciously that my mind is telling me that, okay, man, this is the wrong thing to do. Just don't do it, because there is something like beneath it. And talking about the decision, I think decision making is a huge, let's say, a problem and a burden and an opportunity at the same time of any human, because we are making so many decisions every day, big ones and small ones. And basically, there are two types of decisions, just two types of decisions, how we make decisions. The first one is we decide based on our past. We are trying to find to find patterns from our past, right? We have our experience, we are discovering, finding patterns from our past, and we are making decisions based on those patterns. And this is one type of decisions, how people make decisions. There are another type, they are doing it like by total different. They are looking at the past and they're trying to find exceptions, and they're making decisions based on exceptions, not on patterns. Because if there is an exception, there will be an exception. If there is a pattern, there will be a pattern. Those are two different types of people, two different types of decisions that basically we are making. This is it. So I'm the guy who is doing on the pattern. Probably, I don't know about you, but there are guys that are doing on exceptions. But I'm doing on the pattern. If it worked out this way, probably I'll use the same pattern going forward.
I think that's a good question. I need to think about that for myself. But like, I think mostly it's pattern. But I think what I'm trying to do is to be aware of the exceptions, right? To kind of look back and to be like, okay, what are the exceptions, right? Because I am looking for the black swans as well in my life, right? The things that are completely unexpected, because that's where I can probably make the most difference. And
yeah.
I think also it's important to look back at the patterns and break them, because if you've been doing everything in the same way but you want something else, then you need to change something. And if your decision making has always been the same and you're not happy with your life results, well, you need to change your decision making. You need to do something differently. You need to act something differently in a different way. That quote is attributed, I think, to Einstein, but I think like 99% of all quotes are attributed to Einstein, and he probably only said like 10 of them.
Yeah, right.
But yes, I completely agree. That is a very interesting pattern of thinking about how a decision is made. But I also think what is important in decision making for me, both as an entrepreneur and actually as a human being, is to, once you've made the decision, to be like, okay, it's done, right? The decision is made. And again, that's what I learned also from poker players, right? You can't, once you've made your bet, that's it. The rest is luck, right? Once you've made the decision, the rest, the result, cannot matter. Because what is important is, I believe in the moment of time that I'm making the best decision for me with the best information that I have in front of me. And there's always the element of luck, right? And say 70% of the time I'll be lucky, or 51% of the time I'll do the right decision. But 30% of the time, or 49, whatever example you want to take, something bad will happen. And very often when that bad happens, be like, well, people go back to it and then they go like, oh man, I wish I did a different decision. No, you actually made the right decision. It's just like the result was just in the spectrum of luck that was possible. So I think it's important to completely remove yourself from the result, right? You made a decision, and whatever the result is, that's fine. The result doesn't actually mean, the bad result doesn't mean you made a bad decision. You might actually have made a good decision. And that's, I think, where people often make a mistake, because they go like, oh, the result was bad, therefore the decision was bad, and therefore I'm not going to make the same decision ever again. And that's why people, for instance, I think, they have fears of weird things. They be like, oh, I'm horrible at billiards. I'm never going to play that game. Because once they made a decision to play, and they happen to play against someone who's really good, and they felt miserable and horrible about it, and they will never ever do that thing again. Even though that was just luck, right? If they went on a different day with different people, they might have had a lot of fun. I have a few friends like that who don't like to play board games with me, and I think that's all because of few unlucky moments that happened.
I have a great knowledge about this, like good decisions leading to bad experience, and those kind of trying to see those decisions as bad with several business angels that I've been talking to. And uh, last year, before this COVID stuff and before this pandemic, I was talking to a guy who was investing in startups, like very small amounts, like 50, 100K per startup, and angel investing. And I'm asking him, how are you doing? How do you feel? He was investing for a year. He said, oh, that's a screw up. I kind of lost all the money, and that's like worst decision in my life. I said, why? Because I kind of invested in, like, I think 4 or 5 companies, and like all of them are dead at the moment. I'm kind of, okay, why the decision is bad? Because I lost money. Yeah, but you had the numbers, and you had the numbers that, like, basically, when you are angel investing, the numbers are against you. You can't, like, walk away with a 4 companies portfolio and expect, I don't know, any return at all.
Right.
So the numbers are against you. So you just, like, you should be keeping investing. But did you get any experience out of that? I asked him, and yeah, I met great people. So why the decision is bad? Because I lost my money. So this is, for me, it's a bit like, okay, you lost your money. You're a pretty wealthy guy. You have plenty more. So for you, it's not something like super bad. But you got a lot of experience in the field that you have no idea about
Right.
a year before. And this is what you're talking about as well. I think it was a great decision with a bad result, but if you even see the result not in terms of financial perspective, but in terms of perspective of, like, future opportunities and your experience and skill set, I think it's a good result. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's the thing that we don't know actually until, and I'm gonna sound a bit morbid here, until we die, we don't know anything about how good our decisions have been, right? We just don't know because they can always be reversed, right? There's this famous saying, I think there's a Chinese proverb, and I don't remember the exact proverb, but it talks about a man at a farm, and okay, I'm gonna make this up now, right? I'm gonna make my own proverb. But there's a man at a farm,
Okay.
and suddenly his horse gets sick, and everybody at the village goes, "Oh, it's such misfortune that your horse is sick." And he's like, "Well, maybe." And the next day, because his horse was sick, he had to go out with the horse somewhere, and there he met a person who gave him a lot of wheat to basically plow his field. And everybody said, "Oh, you're so lucky to meet this guy who like gave you all this wheat for free." And he's like, "Well, maybe." And the next day, this guy who gave him all the wheat actually says, "Well, now your son has to go with me to the army." And everybody's like, "Well, that's such a big misfortune. How horrible that your son has to go to the army." And he says, "Well, yeah, maybe, right?" And the story continues for another several layers. But the point of the story is that you actually never know, right? What seems like a fortune might be your biggest misfortune that you will ever come across, and what seems like a huge misfortune in the end might be the best thing that ever happened to you. I mean, I think most of us, it's fair to say, if you're over 10 years old, probably have experienced something where thought, this is horrible, but in the end they were like, "Oh wow, thank God that happened." Right? If this didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, that's exactly those dots that you can connect only looking backwards, not looking forward,
Right.
because you have no idea. The consequences of our decision are so blurred. Let's put it that way. We can't, even if we try to build some kind of, like, roadmap or whatever it is there for our life or business or whatever it is. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't plan. That's not the point. What that I'm talking about. But all the plans and all the, like, big roadmaps should be looked at with a pretty good portion of skepticism. So okay, here's a plan, but we know that it's just a plan. In a month, we might be hit by a tsunami, whatever it is, and the plan will change. Or you'll get, I don't know, something else, a new partnership that will like bring, I don't know, $500,000 deal to your table, and etc. etc. So we should plan, but the plan shouldn't be our Bible to follow, because it should be something in the making, in the constant making. So
How do you feel about this fact that, now, considering what we have just discussed, right? And imagine that we're in a world where you really don't know what's going to happen based on any decisions you make, right? It might be really good, might be really bad. Can that sometimes put you in a place where you don't want to do anything at all because you're afraid of every decision? Because even the good ones might become bad and the bad ones might become good. So you're like, well, kind of like in this bubble, you're like, well, why make any decisions, because any of them can lead to anything? Then why do anything?
yeah, that's super philosophical, but I think I also drafted one blog post very related to the thing that you are talking about at the moment. And the thing is, I was trying to extrapolate the situation with pandemic to the situation of to a normal situation of an entrepreneur, because you've been entrepreneur, you are still entrepreneur. I was basically entrepreneur for whole my life. I mean, professional life. And the thing is that we entrepreneurs, we live in a constant uncertainty. So we have no idea. We are trying to make decision in a constant uncertainty. This is basically our key, and we got used to it. Because for me, this pandemic thing didn't hit me so badly, because okay, situation changed. I now have not uncertainty here, but everywhere. So I just like extrapolate my decision making on the whole, on everything. So and this is it. But nothing really changed in terms of for me personally. Of course, we can travel, etc. There are many practical things, but I'm more talking about that state of mind. And when you close yourself up, it's more about in basically in a situation of uncertainty, when any decision could lead to any result. That's basically where the world we are living at the moment in. You are just like becoming an entrepreneur, and if you are closing yourself down and not making any decision, that's basically not the path for you to take. I think this is like, okay, then you should have some kind of a friend, a spouse, or a business partner, or a family member that can help you out with that, to make decision on your behalf, to show you the way. Again, maybe a bad way, maybe a good way, but
Yeah.
that's for sure what these kind of people expect, and that's okay. That's okay. We're all different. Not that different, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you brought up the pandemic. I don't like to talk about it. COVID's
Yeah.
too much nowadays. But what I did find quite interesting for myself is that my standard mode of thinking in this moment was just like to see 1,000 opportunities. To me, like, the world exploded with open doors, and I have to like almost physically drag myself down and to do things to prepare for the worst as well, right? Because logically thinking, I realize that things can go horribly wrong from here, right? But my standard mode of operation is so optimistic and opportunistic that I'm like, opportunities everywhere, right? And like every founder that I mentor and I talk to who has a startup, like, to me, I'm like, this is the best moment. You can do amazing things now, right? I think maybe I mentioned in the previous podcast, like, one company is called Ugly Cookie, where they make cookies, right? And their business is very much, I think you maybe know Mika, right?
Yeah, I tasted them, so they're pretty good.
They are very good, yes. I'm gonna ask him to send me a few cookies for mentioning the cookies. But
Oh,
and to you as well, yes, for sure. But the point is, like, with him, like, I think a lot of people would be like, oh my god, like, we fully rely on coffee shops and cafes and restaurants. That's how we make money, right? And that's like a huge cut. The way I saw his business was immediately, you can go online tomorrow and immediately start doing things. We talked about it, and now he is delivering online, like, cookie emergency packages, kind of, pandemic cookie supplies. And it's so funny, and like, I got one. We bought it to support him. and we live with that supply. Valerie, my wife, hides the cookies in the house, so I don't eat too many of them, and I have to like play treasure hunt, which is also a lot of fun. But the point is that I saw an opportunity, right? I worked for all my life, or not, sorry, not all my life, thankfully, but a lot of my life in the events industry. And a lot of people in the events industry are completely destroyed, unfortunately, and it's horrible. But again, I see only opportunities in going online, right? I'm like, what can we do online? And I've been to some events where online was done amazingly well. And I was surprised by how well the technology can actually do it. And I think also just per normal life, right? I think a lot of people I hit so negatively, but for us, this was a bloom in many ways, right? We made a garden, we're growing all kinds of stuff. Everything at home it's really changed for the better. I learned a lot of new skills. So I think it's really about like how do you see the events, and I think it's also about like I think we have the choice to see the world we live in, right? If we think the world is a horrible place, it will be. And if you don't, then it won't be. Sorry, that was a bit of a long philosophical talk, but you got me into like a very point that I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's a great topic. Also, I do not like to talk about pandemics and COVID. That's not it. But the thing is that the world is changing,
Right.
and we all should like face it and accept it, because you can't move forward without accepting, okay, the world won't be the same, so all solution won't work. And also, I think I shared with you my recent blog post on Medium. But the thing is, if you take a look at development S-curve, basically how any company, any business, any society, anything grow and matures. So then it starts with ideation, new ideas. Then it goes through growth stage when those ideas get implemented. Then we are moving to scale stage where we build systems for mass adoption. And then we jump into maturity stage when we talk about relationship, culture, etc. And the world, the Western world at least, the majority of Western world is in maturity stage, was in maturity stage for last, I don't know, 6 years at least. And being in maturity stage, then there is a fork. You either go into recession as a business, you might just die. That's basically it. Or you go in another cycle, and another cycle starts with the new ideas again, new ideation, new opportunities, and that's exactly what you see. The world opens up vast majority of opportunities around us. And the thing that the people, when I see people are talking about the crisis, let's call it recession, etc. Yeah, for sure, that's an option. But if we will focus not on sustaining the old ways of doing things, and we'll try to create the totally new ways of doing things, we won't face any long-term recession, or we won't face any crisis, because just like removing old stuff and replacing it with the new stuff, this is what we should do, and this is where we must put our efforts in at this particular moment. Not like, okay, the education system is broken, let's build a 10 years roadmap to redesign it. We went from face-to-face education to remote education in 2 days.
Yeah.
No one died, nothing happened. This is the opportunity world versus maturity world. Maturity world, it's a 10 years roadmap to build a new education system. Opportunity world, it's let's do it overnight and see what happens.
Right.
This is crazy, but it's basically right now the only way of doing things, because the world anyway will entering this new cycle. Either we will like postpone it by trying to adopt the old ways to a new reality, and it will fail eventually, or we will understand that, okay, we will just throw away the old ways and replace them with the new ones.
Yeah.
I think there are so many industries that are should be super focused on just forgetting their past and trying to brainstorm based on the current reality. And this is it. Okay, we have a past, we have experience. Forget about that, because it won't work. It's a past. It's already there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my core principles in life is presence, and I think or values, sorry, and I think that's the key thing here is to be like, okay, like whatever happened. What can we do now, right? Where can we go from this moment? And I think you're right that I liked your post, by the way, and I do agree that we are in a maturity stage, and I think there is a danger of what can happen, because a lot of the time and a lot of companies at maturity stage simply die. And I think there is a danger in that, but I think we as a society need to try to prevent that by going into a new cycle, right? And I think there are some key important elements in that, and there's too many to list. But for instance, today I was thinking about the relationships people have with technology, because I think a lot of the time the relationship we've had with technology over the past 20 years was completely um, well, almost sick, right? It was not healthy, and I think this current situation is forcing us to actually rethink that, right? And to be like, okay, how can we make it more healthy? Before, say, technology has always been good in some ways. I've been talking to my best friend, although we've never lived in the same location almost, but like we've been since probably 90, whatever it was, 96, 97, 98, we're 99, we're always talking online, right? In either typing or then Skype or then ICQ or whatever, right? So there was always that element, but also the more we went to technology, the more I felt it's becoming like a distraction. There's a lot of immoral questions there, a lot of privacy issues, etc., etc., etc. But now I've seen some things for the first time after working in technology for so many years. I saw how technology can make us more human, right? Like the events I mentioned. So we did a few events where we tried to really bring the human element back, and it felt amazing. And I was like, well, it's actually possible if you try. And the problem is, before we didn't need to try. It was just a way to make money. And now we're gonna have to try, because we have this, the communication was taken away from us. We're not talking enough to our friends. Like, we had to use technology to actually be human, and I think that's the challenge. How can we actually humanify, if that's a word? If it's not, then I coined it. But technology, right? Yesterday I saw the launch of Dragon to space, right? And I think that's
Right. Yeah.
definitely one way to do it.
Yeah. Also, this issue goes much deeper than just like, I don't know, the dot com bubble. The thing is, let's be super frank at the moment. And what actually changed since we adopted massively personal computers and internet? Okay, yeah, we have Instagram, Facebook, whatever. We can like talk right now to each other, but everything that's built, it's built on top of those two big inventions. So even IoT world is kind of struggling to find something basically to get us on some kind of small gadgets to do implants, whatever it is, but nothing changed. And that's exactly why this technology becoming so let's call it toxic, because it's just like a barrel. It was a full barrel, and we got everything out of it, and it's empty, nothing there, only like toxic waste is there. And that's exactly the point when we should rethink the role of technology in our life, in life of our kids, because they grew with technology from day one. We
Right.
were born when the technology was like black and white TV. That was like, whoa, that's super cool. And then we have VHS, and it was like mind blowing that you can watch your own movie. But not the point. But the world, based on just like simple two inventions, okay, there's happened many things beside that in medicine, in health, whatever. But anyway, the whole world, the whole system is built on top of those two big inventions that happened like 40 years ago, that were mass adopted 40 years ago. 40. And this is the cycle, 40 years kind of there. And right now we are using technology the same way we were using it from day one. It's more user friendly. It's more interactive. Yeah, now we are not like chatting on RC or whatever. Now we're having this video conversation, but nothing fundamentally changed, and that's the biggest issue. And I think also that the Andreessen and Horowitz guy who was posting "It's time to build" blog post.
Yeah.
It's amazing post. I think he reminding those like values from like 40 years ago or even 60 years ago, that right now it's time to build. It's time to develop new things, not trying to adapt to the situation. It won't work. it might work in the short term, but in the long term, in the midterm, it won't. So this is, I think.
Why do you think nothing changed in this 40 years, right? Like fundamentally.
Fundamental from technology perspective, no. Let's face it. Internet became faster. Computers became faster. Computers are now in our pockets, and internet now in our pockets. This is what changed.
Right.
Nothing fundamental, and you can see that nothing changed. And pandemic showed this super, like in a super clear way, that people are super frustrated. Okay, remote work. What the hell is this? Come on, it was kind of 10 to 20 years ago. You were able to work remotely, but
Right.
for majority of us, because me and you, we are living basically also in the bubble, in the technology bubble. For us,
Yes.
this technology, okay, this is cool. This is what we understand. But for example, many friends of mine, they have no idea what I'm doing. So they just like, I don't know what he's doing. He's doing some stuff on the internet, and this is it. And majority of our society are not yet there in terms of technology adoption. That's why it's so toxic, because they are using this only for toxic reasons. Not using it to improve their lives. They're using it to, I don't know, kill time, whatever it is there. And this is the thing that I think that the next leap, or the next this cycle should start not with technology, and we shouldn't expect that right now we will develop, I don't know, a cold fusion and the energy crisis will be resolved. It won't be technological. I think it much more will be let's say it, cultural. It will be a leap of minds of people that we will start to rethink ways how we live, how we behave, how we use technology. And people that aren't using technology will start to rethink their lives as well. That, okay, probably I should start using it not only just to post a picture on Facebook, but maybe to whatever, I don't know, plan my budget or like small things.
Right.
And this is a change, a massive change in mindset, not some technological, because we are not on the edge at the moment. At least I don't know what kind of technology could bring us through this canyon that's happening right now. I think it's more us human beings.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest problem and challenge, because just recently I was reading a book where I like philosophy and psychology, but I was reading a summary, and I normally hate summaries because they don't give you the full depth of thought of people, and that's why self-help books are really annoying but that's a totally different topic, right? But the point is, I was reading a book that was summarizing all philosophers and main thinkers of basically our civilization since Aristotle or Socrates, right? And what was striking to me is that every century the philosophers were pointing out the same problems we're still having. Nothing changed since that time, right? Like in thousands of years. Like the mindset of humanity at the basic level has not developed much, right? And that is a very fearful thought, right? Because I'd like to think that we've grown and developed. But if I read those texts, I'm afraid that perhaps we have not. And I think only big cataclysmic events and perhaps a lot of effort by a large number of people can help us make that change and that transition. I mean, the ideas of how we need to change our mindset have been there for thousands of years. The ancient books that are available, they're mind-blowing in terms of understanding of humanity. Right now, kids that go to school never learn any of that, and then they continually make the same mistakes that we've been making for centuries. And that's why I think now is an interesting time, because I think maybe, just maybe, we can change one little thing. Maybe not everything, right? But maybe like one small element here or there might change. And that's why I think we live in extremely exciting times, because everybody can also influence that change, right? At the times of, say, Socrates or Aristotle, you might have amazing thoughts and ideas, but the spread of those ideas was rather limited. Now it's actually possible for someone to make their idea reach almost the whole world, right? And that's where I think technology can be powerful and beautiful, because it can enable us to, if we look at us as a brain where we're all connected, like all of the humanity is somehow connected to one another, we can now transfer the way neurons transfer information quickly to everyone, right? We couldn't do that before. So what happened before is that you have some great idea somewhere in a centralized location and it spreads a little bit, but then it stops spreading at some point, right? You either have to start conquering countries because you end up, talking to Vikings or something, but at some point it completely stops spreading. And then the great thinkers, they were like, well, I'm not going to do any fighting, so I'm just going to lock myself into a monastery and write books, right? So like all these amazing thoughts and ideas, they stopped. And now we live in a moment when they don't have to stop. And that's what I find so exciting, but also extremely challenging, because just talking about it is not enough. You also need to somehow really change the mindset of people. And I think, wow, I don't even know where to begin with that problem.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's huge in terms of scale of the problem. And I think that the key lies in on the layer of values. I mean, uh, just like let's talk who is successful in the modern society. How do you describe successful person?
Is that a question?
Yeah, just a
That is
bit
a good
elaborate.
question. We talked a little bit about it with Dimitri, and I think you know success is like you can ask 1,000 people and you get 1,000 different definitions of what success really is, right? And I think
But
we as a
society,
society,
in general, how society describes it.
like
So
if I think about Western society, really it's like power, money, and fame, right? That's how they tend to think about what success is, and I completely disagree with that, right? On the other hand, it seems to me that you might need to get some of that to be able to spread the message, but not necessarily. I'd like to think that we have other ways of doing that. But yes, I think the Western society generally, yeah, money, power, and fame. That's usually what
yeah,
success is. Sometimes they
that's a
mention
great
small
3 points.
things like, sometimes they mention things like family, but I think they're lying.
Yeah, for sure they are. I mean, values are super personal, but in terms of a society, yeah, I totally agree with you that there's like money, power, fame, and the order might change from time to
Yeah.
time, whatever it is. But the shift will happen when these three things won't affect if you are successful or you don't. Because let's just take one of these things. Let's take two, just to show you the trend that I'm kind of seeing at the moment. Fame, how to become famous. 10 years ago, it was like a huge investments. Right now, you can be an Instagram star or YouTube video or star, whatever it is. It's not the thing that might be, but it can be there. You can achieve it. So it's there. It's pretty democratized. I mean, the value of fame, it's pretty democratized based on technology as well. But let's take money, basic income will solve majority of problems of money. This is the key, and then being successful won't mean that you should have money. Everybody does. Everyone around you has money, at least something that can guarantee them. And then, if you're successful or you're not, won't be measured in money. Will be measured in something different. So the power, again, this is about like democracy. This is about the elections. This is about the you controlling your own neighborhood, whatever, etc., etc. And this will become more and more transparent. So when those three values that you mentioned, a person being successful, will be replaced, or at least not replaced. Let's put it that way. Will be filled with some basic opportunities for everybody. Then other values will jump out. Either those values will be good or bad. I have no idea. But then we'll see like relationship, family. I don't know whatever is there. Being creative, contribute to society, contribute to the world, sustainable life. So because you think about sustainability when you are basically wealthy enough that you can afford it.
Yeah.
No one that is struggling for a piece of bread won't think about sustainability. Forget it. It won't be there. Those values won't be have any mass adoptions. So that's why this sustainability, green world, green energy is always a struggle, because there are so many people that are living on the edge at the moment that they don't care about that.
Yeah, and
And this is, I
they can't
think,
care
that
about it. Yeah.
yeah, they can't care, exactly. Maybe they are actually caring about that, but okay, I can care about that, but I won't contribute in terms of, I don't know, money, time, whatever, because I have other more important issues. So the Maslow pyramid. So
Yeah.
this is it. We should replace those values, or guarantee those values that right now defining successful person, with something that putting everybody on the same basically position.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, but I also think it's challenging, right? But I think that shouldn't stop us from trying, right? Because the way I think about it, and I was talking to my good friend Skinner yesterday, who I'm also going to invite on this show in a few weeks, and like say basic income, right? It sounds great, but there are other dangers around it, right? Because if you take people who, and I like the idea of basic income, let's put it out front, right? But at the same time, I do, after talking to my friend, I think I need to reanalyze it more to see some of the downsides, because it's quite possible that some people who are used already to, say, overconsumption of media, right, who are just spending all their time on Netflix and Facebook, which is, let's say, a lot of people, once they get basic income, they can simply do that more, right? Then they don't have to actually go out now and contribute to society. Yes, I agree with it. There will be people who will have some of the basic needs alleviated, and they will have the thinking capacity to start taking care of other things. But at the same time, some people will be fueling their addictions and their, even further hunger for power and money and fame. So there are difficulties, and I don't want to maybe discuss the basic income problem too much. I'm just saying that there are difficulties, there are different sides to the story, and that's why I think the important part for me personally is to actually, like, to me it doesn't begin with top down approaches, right? So even basic income is like somebody up top going like, well, we'll give you all money, right? Or somebody up top goes like, from now on, money, power, and fame, you can't have that ever, right? Communism tried that a couple of times, and it's not going so well for a lot of places who tried it in different ways, right? But what I think it actually begins is like, okay, we need to go from bottom up, like we do in startup world, how we do about entrepreneurship. I think, and that's the path I'm on. Is like, I think everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, like not in the sense of trying to make money or building companies, but for themselves personally, right? Because excuse me, if you're a good entrepreneur, you actually at some point will have to define your values, right? You'll have to think about your principles. You'll have to think about, how do you hire people, how do you interact with them? Are you bad with people? Are you a bad boss, or are you a good boss? Like, you will have to deal with it in one way or another, and then you have to deal with the reality of who you are. And I think where we need to start is with kids and children, and teach them how to choose values. Right now, if I ask probably 99% of adults, even rather intellectual adults, even my good friends, like, give me your top 3 values in life, right? Not many of them can be like, oh yeah, here's my book, here's my 3 values, right? It's action, responsibility, and presence. They'll be like, what do you mean, right? And then we'll have to talk about it for maybe 3 hours. And then eventually they'll be like, well, yeah, actually, having discussed this for 3 hours and then having spent 10 days in a secluded environment and making notes, I now know that my top 3 values are X, right? But I only figured out my values through a very difficult process of, that took years to actually write it down. And, I was never taught this. Schools never taught this. Society only told me that you have to make money to be successful, or, power was maybe not so important in the Soviet Union bred thing, but money that we didn't have was an important thing to strive for. Going away from where you are was important. That's why, going to the Western world was the thing that I did. But I was not taught this. And I think that's where we need to start. We need to the mindset needs to start with the seeds and being like, okay, guys, no, I don't care what values you come up with, but think about it carefully. right? Because also you can't force values upon people. You can't say, well, your values should be X, right? Fine, come up with your own values. I don't care, right? But like, give it real thought. And I think that's what is missing in our education systems, and also in well, everything that we do.
Yeah, I would like to go back a bit. And when you mentioned this like top-down approach that you do not like, and bottom-up approach that you kind of like,
Yeah.
it's not black and white. You should have both all the
Right.
time. Because imagine that any organization I've been doing like management advisor and digital transformation for a couple of years to big companies, and when I was talking to a management and to employees, and only when there is a management that's committed to change and that's ready to change and that's initiating the change, only then that those are employees that at the bottom of the structure can actually operate and deliver great results. It won't work if it's top to bottom. It's just like you said, communism or whatever it is, but it's like dictatorship. It's like you need to do this and you just do this, and this is it. If it's bottom up, it's basically either will lead to company failure or to revolution, to whatever it is, but it won't work out because the top guys are not ready. And I'm not talking like top bottom in these terms, but I'm more talking about the government or the governance of the company, of the country, whatever it is, and the people who are living in this country. So it should be like that, and we meet somewhere in the middle. I mean, those two parties should meet somewhere in the middle. But if there is nothing from either on one side or another, it won't work. And this is, I think, this should be realized that we should do a lot ourselves, but for sure we should hold accountable the governments as well. I mean, the government, the management of companies, whatever it is there, and they should understand that something should change, and they should kind of see what's going on there and give let's say give opportunity to change, give some kind of framework. Okay, here's a framework that you can build on top of,
Yeah.
or here's like a new law that doing that or this or that, whatever it's there. But then you can operate within this field easily and you can deliver something new. You can start changing yourself, and then you'll find those people who have values, so in terms of creativity, innovation, new stuff in any industry. But if there is no like this movement from one side and from another, it's just like blah blah blah, and what work.
I absolutely love that, and I want to thank you for that, because like that one thought that you just said is why I'm doing this, right? Like that, first of all, corrected me in a way where like I was thinking more bottom up, and when you said about that both are true, it just like, yeah, you're right? It just made so much sense to me, because like I believe in this non-dualistic approaches, right? Non-dualistic thinking in general, right? That black will never be right and white will never be right. That you need both in anything, in life, in whatever it is that you do. You need both elements to be successful, to do what you need to do. You need to be able to work with both, and I think that is why when you said that, it clicked that sometimes I actually myself, even though I know this, I actually only think of one of the elements. And I think that's where kind of a lot of self-development happens for me, is like I need to find those places and reconcile with the other half. This is a bit philosophical, but like you gave me a lot of value that I really need to think through and work with. So thank you. That's I actually, in my in my productivity system, I have a special place called hunting. And in hunting, I only list my personal characteristics that I'm working on, right? So I notice something, like say you said now that, hey, Dima, sometimes you only mention the bottom up and you're forgetting the top down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write down, hey, notice more when this happens, and then I'm going to be hunting it, and I'm going to be looking for where I do this in my life. And there's a few elements, like there's many things that are there, but it's a system that I use. But anyways, the point is that thank you for that. That was extremely valuable for me, and I think what it also tells me, coming back to the actual topic and not distracting with productivity hacks, but the interesting thing what you said there is, I think the way I would summarize that is that we as humans, Earthians, and this is the whole point of this name, the whole point of this live stream, Like, we need to agree, right, on a big thing. We can disagree on small things, right? Some small values. We can even have clashes and fights and conflicts and stuff. But the game of where we're going together, we need to agree on, right? We need to unite, and have Earthians unite as to where we want to go as humanity, right? And then we can argue all about, how we're gonna get there. We can argue about the approaches, whether it's a universal basic income, whether it's education, where it's this. But we need to figure out what it is, why we're doing it. And I think the interesting thing is that it's an unanswerable question from one point of view, but on the other point of view, trying to answer it together gives us that unity. And I think that's what we need to be doing. And you need to start with yourself, because if you don't know why you are doing things, it's very hard to unite with everyone else. But what you said gave so much thought and clarity to me. So thank you. I mean, I really need to write this down.
Really glad, that it's kind of stick, and we'll get into the list. But then on the same topic, let's go a bit deeper, and I want to show you again one of my observations. At least it's not an observation, but at least it's the thing that I would love to operate, for example, my country based
Right.
on. And this is super connected when you're talking about like bottom, and when you're talking about up. We're all like looking, okay, here's the like employee and here's the management, but there are so many layers between those two that we are just ignoring in terms of when I'm kind of talking about values, it starts with my personal values, then it should grow to my basically neighborhood values. This is another level. I'm not talking about right now about country values, because country values is super huge. It's like where are we going as a country, and now there are so few people that could actually imagine where the country is going and how to get there. That's not just, let's not give everyone opportunity to just rule this ship. Okay, we have democracy, we have small opportunities to steer here and there, but anyway, what I'm talking about, that we start with basically household, then community, I mean your neighborhood, whatever it's like, small, big, how many are there, then basically your town or your biggest neighborhood in town, then maybe your city, and then maybe whatever in US it's state, and then it's like basically country. And then you build from ground up, and also from top to bottom. So you're trying to be better, and to deliver those values just in your neighborhood. This is what you can do tomorrow. You
Yeah.
do not need to go and basically with some kind of paper in your hands and saying, yeah, government sucks, they're all like wasting our money, give us money back, whatever. It won't change anything. Go and change your life, go and change your neighborhood. And also, being from Soviet Union, you're also from Soviet Union, basically. You basically, we all know how it happened. And also right now, still in many post-Soviet countries, this stuff is, from one perspective, fascinates me. From another perspective, I'm kind of feel awful when I see like people like, yeah, we are in Europe, we're so cool, blah blah blah. But then when their values, they are limited with a flat. When the door from the flat is open, then there are no their values, because it's already like dirty floors there, etc. And say, why you can't like take and wash those floors and then clear them up and whatever it's there, buy paint and paint a wall. It's like 5 years investment. But you are saying that you are so cool and you have so great basically design in your flat, but when you step out of your door, there is a like world of shit, let's put it that way. So, and then you kind of see that those values are not real values for this particular person, or the real values are not kind of delivered outside his or her household. So they're saying that, yeah, we want to live in this country that's free and clean and pride, whatever it's there. But they are not ready to commit. I think this is the biggest issue, that we want to kind of say something and our government will run and make us happy. But it won't work that way. It will work from bottom up. It's only working by from level to level to level to level. And that's also one of the things that I'm right now philosophically overthinking for quite some time, how to build like country management, because I live in a super small country, Latvia. We are just 2 million, and how to manage this country super transparent. And I think there are ways of doing that are technology based, that everyone involved, but you start not with management like the government, but with management small things like your neighborhood. Then your neighborhood managed like the region, then your region managed like, and it grows up and up and up. And this is those like levels from bottom to the top are super crucial and to understand this movement, like basically one to another.
Yeah, I like that. You should take a look at how Bali is run. I'm not gonna say that it's run perfectly, at least when it comes to practical things like garbage on the streets. But they do have that system, at least I think philosophically, that they have a household that has their own rules, and then they have the village that encompasses the household, and they have their own rules, and then the province has their own rules, and then the government or the whole has their own. And I like that system a lot, and I think it can be built upon. But I agree with you there that we have to start doing things ourselves first in our own house. It's very easy to sit on the couch and watch TV and criticize the government when you are not looking after yourself and not looking after your family, and you only give advice that you can't even follow yourself. And the other thing is to actually start to do things actively. And it's strange to me how, at least in the Western world, the communities are built. Is that we're being put into apartments with hundreds of strangers that we never know. We've never done that before, right? For the whole history of humanity, what we've been doing is bonding in groups of tightly knit individuals who all believe that they're one unit, and they are, they will support this one unit. And now most people live in apartment blocks, or even sometimes neighborhoods, where the best they can do is to know, two neighbors on the side and say hello once in a while. And I'm not going to say I'm not living in the same situation. I am. And then the question is, how can I change that? Right? And I'm working towards that, because what we as a family are working towards is we want to live next to our friends, right? And people we care about, right? And we set a roadmap. We know where we and when we want to do that, and it will take time. But that's what I want to do, because I want to surround myself with a family by choice, right? The people I want to be around with the whole time, where we can build on values, because these values, they take time to build, but they might not even be built. If we create that environment, they might not even be built in this generation. It will be our kids that will have them. But I really like your thinking of the fact that you need to start at home, and it's small things, right? Like you have to make your life perfect first, because it really is small things, right? Open the kitchen drawer. What does it look like inside, right? If some people make things very beautifully on external level, right? And that's some achievement, right? Many people don't do even that. We go in and everything is messy everywhere, right? But some people make make an effort, and external is beautiful. Okay, and then you look inside, and I think some of what's inside is a reflection of what's actually inside of you, right? What's happening inside of you, because I think everything, like you will do the same the same problems everywhere. And that's what I believe also in entrepreneurship, where it's very interesting to me when I look at companies, is that when I look at founders and successful entrepreneurs, what they do in their companies, they do exactly the same thing in their life, like normal life, with their family, with their friends. Like if they're autocratic, narcissistic, that's exactly how they work in their life, with their family and friends. And I think that's the same thing with like your home and your household and your values. And that's why for me it's really important to actually go through the values of my family and to know what they are. And that's the next step, right? First know my own, then my family, and then I can like knock on the neighbors' doors. But guys, what's your values? In Finland, I don't know what's the reaction going to be when I do that. But let's see what might happen if I start taking action that way. But I will never find out if I don't.
Yeah, sure. Better regret what you did than regret what you didn't do. So
Oh yes, absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, this community thing really thrills me, and this Bali example, I'll definitely check it out. Thank you for that. How it's built? It's Bali, was right
Bali, yes,
that you
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah,
Yeah. I'll definitely check it out because it's pretty interesting. That really resonates with me, like having like values, even in terms of we like half a year we moved into a new home, and we have like a street here with private homes that's doesn't have lights on it. I mean, only lights that are on from private homes. But it's super quiet. It's lighted from. It's super small. So basically, probably it won't be. But what I'm interested in, will I be able to pursue other neighbors to actually create a document that we will send over to municipality with a request to build up the lighting here, because
yeah.
this is the value what I think I have, but I'm not sure if my neighbors will share this value. Maybe they will, we don't care. And then you kind of understand, yeah, then there is a mismatch between values, and you can basically force your values upon them. So you just can sell it somehow, present it. Okay, we will have lightning. It will be safer, more, I don't know, cozy, whatever, blah blah blah. But you never know.
Well, and that's where I think you need to figure out a way where you can talk about these things openly, and you can discuss it and understand it. Like, and one of the ideas that I have for Earthians in the long term is to like come up with like an Earthian passport, right? Which, unlike a normal passport, just tells the important things about you, right? Like, I want people that I interact with, I want to send them a link, and I'm maybe gonna do something on Notion as a test, but like send them a link and be like, look, this is me, right? Before you meet tomorrow at 2, check it out. My values are, action, responsibility, and presence. And here's my 15 principles. And here's my, little scale of extroversion, introversion, a little bit of this and that. Like, here's me, right? Here's things I don't like to do at all, ever, right? I'm not gonna do any meetings before 11. Sorry, right? Here's me in general. Like, take a look at it briefly. The design challenge is to make it as neat as possible. I know me and you, we worked a little bit on design challenges of similar things for companies, but that would be for human, right? And be like, okay, like, how can I represent who I am very quickly to somebody who doesn't know me? And I think like developing that language, developing that ability, it doesn't have to be even a tool. Just having that conversation, right? And now, for me, one of the principles is to openly discuss exactly what's happening internally with me, with others, right? And explain to them how I function.
Yeah,
Before, I would be afraid to say to like business partners, like, "Hey guys, I don't have any meetings before 11," right? Because that's not normal. Now I just do it, and everybody's like, "Okay." Like,
yeah,
I've never had a bad thing. I quit email for like a year completely, right? Like, no email at all, like blank, totally quit email. Uh, Everybody was completely, well, not everybody, but almost everybody was okay with that. And the ones who wasn't okay with that, I found a way how to, circumvent that as well, right? Like, you can build the life you want on your, like, not gonna say your terms, because that's also a problem, but I think you can explain your preferences, and you can explain how people should interact with you, because we're so
yeah.
unique. We're all so unique, and we need to show our uniqueness more, because that's the way which we can agree with. If I don't know how you function, I'm just gonna assume you're exactly like me. And when I do that, when you don't do things exactly like me, I'm gonna be very pissed off.
Yeah. That's a great topic because understanding people around you, I think it's another key of basically living something like living successful and fulfilled life. And we are definitely not the same. But we are not definitely super unique. There are different types of people. There are like limited amount of types of people. But that's another huge story. Not about that. I'm more talking about like values and this my personal manual. For example, I also right now have a personal manual that can send it over to any guys who know me and saying, okay, if you want to cooperate with me, to work with me, here are the not the terms. It's like too harsh, but
Yeah.
here are the guidelines. Let's put it that way. Here's a very short manual of what to expect from our cooperation, because I'm the guy who is doing this and that and this and that and this and that. Period. So expect this. Do not expect anything. It's like expectation management. And
Yeah.
very good also sample, for example, for me, one of the biggest values that you recently discovered. It might sound very interesting and very controversial, but now you'll understand why. So for me, one of the key values to operate is myself.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds super selfish, right? So you are kind of this level of selfishness, but that's not a bad thing for me. For me, it's a super good thing, because when I feel good, when I'm kind of motivated, when I'm kind of energized, when everything around me is kind of supporting me, I kind of spread so much energy around myself. I spread so much motivation around myself with people around me. I motivate them. I recharge them with my energy, and that's how I help. Being like selfish, I help everyone around me. If I won't be selfish, if I will try to do everything to please everybody around me, no one will be pleased, because I will be irritating, like, I don't know, piece of crap, and trying to please everybody, but being unhappy, and at the end of the day not pleasing anyone.
Yes.
And this is the yeah, there are values that from one perspective sounds super bad. I don't know, selfishness is not a value, but in my particular case, and there are many people like me, it's a super good thing, and you should focus on it, but you shouldn't be a jerk. I mean, selfishness in terms of me, you should contribute back, because like being selfish all the time, it's also won't work for me in the long run. In the long run, but you should understand why this value basically is your value, even if it sounds bad for people around you, and you should explain why it's like this. Because when you are getting this as a person, as an individual, I'm spreading it. I'm spreading this happiness, motivation around me, and energy. If I'm not having it, I'm kind of dead, and everyone around me as well. So I can motivate, I can lead people, I can do anything. So those are small things that should be in the manual. Basically, if we work together, here what to expect.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think, like, actually, if you look at the the oranges of the world word selfish, I like to look at the word origins quite often, because sometimes it explains what the original meaning was supposed to be. And I think if you look at synonyms back in 1600s to selfishness, it was actually self-seeking, right? Self-ended, self-full, fulfilling yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it became, and over the years and generations, it became what it is today, where it has this very negative connotation. And I think when it comes to that, I think it is important to take care of yourself. It's like, in an airplane, when the masks falls down, you kind of have to put your own masks first, right? And we talked about, you have to take care of your own house. You have to take care of your own body first, right?
Yeah.
And I think it does start with very basic things. You have to get your mind in order. You have to get your body in order. You need to get what you eat and how you exercise in order. Then you can get your house in order. Then you can get your neighborhood in order, etc. Right? And again, when I'm mentoring founders and working with founders, I mean, when mentoring is even a big word, I guess, just working with them, because sometimes they mentor me even more than I can mentor them. But the interesting thing with that is that it's a parallel thing, right? If they haven't taken care of all these things selfishly for themselves in their own life, the same areas suffer in their company completely, right? If they're not taking care of physically of themselves, like, everybody is exactly like them in that company, right? And then productivity is very low because they just don't have the energy, right? Because they simply don't take care of their bodies, right? How can you do that? Nowadays, like, interestingly, even if you look at a thing where, like, say, computer gaming, right? You would imagine the standard view of a computer gamer is a nerd in glasses with a coke and, like, big belly or overweight. But if you look at top performance in that field, in esports, right, they all are very fit, eat super healthy. They all have psychiatrists and health specialists. And to be at the top of any field, like, you have to take care of every part of your life, right? You can't. It's just. I think if you are at the top of the field and you haven't done that, then it was just like the luck element played such a big role that you were able to get, a lot of money, for instance, but you're still not taking care of your body and you have a bit of a belly. There was a big luck element somewhere down the round, down the line, right? And you're paying for that luck with your bad health.
Yep. So the thing is also that so many people are not even not investing in themselves. They're not trying to understand themselves, and I think it's a root cause of all the things that are happening wrong with our world. Because when you do not understand yourself, either you kind of, even if you do understand yourself and you don't want to accept yourself, that's the biggest problem, even the biggest problem, than just not understanding yourself. It's a root cause to everything. It's a root cause to basically broken marriages. It's a root cause of disengagement at work. It's a root cause of everything happening bad around you. Because when you are trying to be someone else, for example, when you are forced by society or by education system or whatever it is there to do things the exact way because it's right, and you are trying to break yourself and to do this particular thing right, then it won't work. And in the long run, it won't work because in the long run, you'll face a midlife crisis and you are dead. And right now, we are talking more about a good example, even about education. There are two types of people, how they consume information in terms of how they learn. The first thing, the first group of people, they need theory before practice. The second group of people need the other way around. They need to practice things. They need to break something. They need to break something, do something wrong, and then get the theory. Those are two different approaches. And I was always, because our education system, and at least when I was there inside the system, was built exactly on the first way of educating, like you're having theory, and then there is some practice. But I'm the other way around, guys. So I need to practice something. Okay, you just like tell me a couple of words what it's all about, and then I'll try to do it. If I won't be able to it, I'll need a theory. If I won't be able to solve it, if I will be able to solve it, I do not need any theory, or I'll just need a brief part of the theory. And those are things that are kind of forced on us from like families, etc., etc. So you need to be good at math. Why? Because it's future.
Yeah.
It's like future for some people, but not for everybody. We will still have people who are bad in math and they're still super successful on other fields. They are doctors, they are chemistries, whatever it's there. And those are stereotypes or some kind of like families, things that are forced on us. I think that's super bad, and we need to do something about that. But I have no idea what. So I start with myself again. Understand myself, then understand the people around me, like close circles, family, loved ones. Then try to understand, like, I don't know, company. Then try to understand your neighborhood, city, whatever it's there.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. And I have a feeling that we can actually continue talking for about 4 more hours with you. And I think we definitely should. I am also one other thing that is, I think, important in all of this is to honestly communicate all your feelings with people, right? And like exactly say how you feel, right? Including how you feel inside, right? So right now inside I'm feeling a bit tired, and I feel that I overspent the amount of energy that I had planned for this talk, right? Which means to me that actually for future ones I want to have longer discussions, but I think I need to prepare better, right? In terms of my body level of energy. I mean, I do take care of my sleep, but there's things I can do to prepare the energetical level so I can talk longer. But I do feel that right now my energy is starting to drain down, and that's an example of how I communicate with people, right? I honestly say what's happening, and then I think that is one way to express all these values, right? But I think how I would summarize our discussion so that we come to some sort of a final point of today, but what to me strong, like we touched on many topics, right? But what I think for me is perhaps the most important one is that the world is changing, but for it to change for the better, you need to start with yourself, right? And write down the things you want to change about yourself, and make sure that you start to work on them actively and not passively. Because most people, they kind of like, yeah, I'm doing self-development. No, you're not. You're thinking about it, and maybe you read a book once in a while, but you're not actually doing the change. And I think what we talked a lot about today is that there's a lot of things to change, but you really have to start with yourself. And once you do, your life will follow. Like, stop trying to change other people. Just change yourself, and then others will follow. That's how I would summarize today.
I think it's a great tagline as well. I also can talk a lot of another 2 hours easily, because I'm not wasting a lot of energy on that. You are, and you need to replenish it. I'm kind of wasting a lot of attention on that. So, and my attention span also starting to drop down, energy going up, because I'm kind of getting energy of that stuff. Yeah. But attention goes down. That's why I'm kind of, if we take another 2 hours, I'll be talking bullshit in an hour already. So some kind of blah blah blah, but I will still be energetic. So, but yeah, start with yourself. World is not changing; it changed. So it's a fact. That's even more harsh to understand, that it changed. Period. So it's not like changing in the process. It might well get back again. No, it changed. And to live in a new world and to live in an improved world, you need to understand yourself and start with yourself and go up and up and up and up, involving people around you more in what you do, basically transmitting your values around you. And yeah, and not being, not trying to hide anything. As you mentioned, you ran out of energy, and that's okay. And yeah, let's wrap it up. And that's the honesty we all expect from everybody. I think we should do it that way. It's the only way to go.
Well, let's do it then. Thank you, Jean. Thank you for being on this episode. I think we'll definitely do more things together, and also, always happy to help. I'm gonna now switch to the other camera and say goodbye to our listeners. But thank you, Jean, so much. And I hope to see you soon live, and we'll do many cool projects together.
Okay, thank you, Dmitry. It was great talking to you. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye. All right, everyone. That was me and Jean. Thank you so much for tuning in and for listening to our discussion. I personally learned a lot. Let me know what you liked, what you agree with, what you disagree with on the comments on any medium. But if you want to ask me questions, or even Jean, feel free to join the Discord channel for Earthians, or support us on Patreon, and then you'll get special access to the Earthians Discord channel. But what I want to say the most about today is that, and I'm going to say it probably every single time, is when you listen to anything, make sure you do so actively and you create your own wisdom. Because we now shared a lot of our own wisdom, but the key is like, what is yours? So tell us later, what did you learn? Thank you so much, and see you in the next episode.